Hello and welcome to RajSabha television. You're watching The Big Picture with Pereira. The results of the Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh assembly polls are likely to set the course of the winter session of Parliament beginning on Friday, with both Treasury and opposition benches hoping for a positive outcome before they lock horns in the two houses. The first day is likely to see no transaction of business, at least in the Lok Sabha, which is likely to adjourn till Monday after paying tributes to sitting members who passed away in the inter-session period. After the weekend break, the two houses will meet again on Monday when the poll results will be announced. The government is expected to table 25 pending bills and 14 new ones, 25 bills in total, including a bill providing Muslim women the right to seek maintenance in case of triple talaq during the session. Delayed by almost a month due to the polls, this session will have fewer sittings than the usual. It has 14 work days compared to 21 in the last winter session, but the government is hopeful of pushing its legislative agenda in the short time. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will discuss the agenda of the winter session of Parliament. Joining me on the program today are Parsa Venkateshwar Rao Jr., senior journalist, P. Bhattacharya, Congress MP in the RajSabha, and Udit Raj, BJP MP in the Lok Sabha. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Before I throw the discussion open to my guests here, let's first listen in to what the chairman of the RajSabha had to say before the winter session of Parliament.
Parliament represents the sovereign will of the people. In a way, Parliament is work in progress. In democracy, people and Parliament are both eyes of democracy. Keeping that in mind, we have to see that the Parliament functions effectively, highlighting the will, aspirations and hopes of the people, and have a meaningful and purposeful debate. The country is moving forward undoubtedly, but at the same time, there is always scope for further improvements and speeding up of the momentum of the developmental activities. Keeping that in mind, I feel that the Parliament session, the coming winter session, is very important because every session brings some hopes for the people. पूर्व राष्ट्रपति, एक वरिष्ठ स्टेट्समैन जिसको हम लोग कहते, श्री प्रणब मुखर्जी ने कहा, डिस्कस, डिबेट, डिसाइड, बट डो नॉट डिस्टर्ब. He said first 3 Ds, discuss, debate, decide are important, but do not disturb. That is all the more important, he said. This is very relevant even today. Secondly, I also have a view that opposition must always have its say, irrespective of the numbers. But at the end of the day, government must have its way, because people have elected a particular government, and we must respect the mandate of the people. And we must be tolerant towards the mandate of the people, if I have to say it in such a frank manner. Secondly, in the Parliament, one can raise the issue, discuss the issue, debate the issue, question the government, confront the government also, extract as much as you can. At the end of it, you can only either talk out or walk out, but not disturb the House. That should also be kept in mind. That's why I always say, let the government propose anything. Let the opposition, if it chooses, oppose. Government propose, opposition oppose, let the House dispose. At the end of the day, the beauty of Parliament is, after even a heated debate, exchanges, then the issues are resolved through sometimes voting, sometimes through voice vote, sometimes even through division also. That is the only way forward. Of the winter session, though it's a short session, that will be followed by a budget session where you will have more opportunity to discuss the larger issues. And also, yesterday the Parliamentary Affairs Minister met me and told me there are a number of bills slated. Some of the bills can be passed during this session, some can be taken to the next session. But the essence of what I want to say is, let us have a meaningful, purposeful parliament session. Let us have a constructive debate, and then let us live up to the expectation of the people.
Well, that was the chairman of the Rajya Sabha there telling us what to expect and what he expects from parliamentarians as far as the winter session goes. Let me throw the discussion open now to our panelists, beginning with the journalist Parsa Venkateshwar Rao. Parsa, what do you expect from the winter session of Parliament?
I think it being a very short session, things may not work out completely, either from the point of view of the government and in the sense that they have an agenda of bringing the bills and all that. I do not think they will be able to push through all the bills, perhaps a couple of the bills. The opposition also may be dissatisfied because the time is too short for them to raise all the issues they want to raise and to have the lengthy discussions which they desire, which any opposition desires to nail the government. So it is going to be rather unsatisfactory because of the shortness of the session. So within the short thing, if both sides can play by the rules, accommodate each other, I think there can still be a lot of, as the Vice Chairman of the Rajya Sabha has said, a meaningful session and a purposeful session. But I think it requires accommodation on both sides. The government has to be very, very magnanimous in allowing time and in allowing issues to be discussed which the opposition wants to raise. The opposition must make use of that instead of raising tempers or saying that asking for impractical demands that somebody should answer, somebody should resign. Those things do not happen. The opposition must make use of the opportunity for discussion and debate to state their point, to criticize the government unsparingly.
Sure.
What we need is a very vocal opposition. We do not want a noisy opposition.
Okay, a vocal opposition, not a noisy opposition is what you said. Mr. Udit Raj, is the government willing to give the opposition its space? Is willing to reach out to the opposition and see what their demands are, to see what it is that they want to talk about? Because in the past, the BJP government has been accused by the opposition of not reaching out to the opposition.
BJP is always willing to reach to the opposition, and it has tried many times and sometimes succeeded also. See the case of GST, that all opposition parties unanimously voted in favor of GST. And similarly, in case of National Appointment Judicial Commission, opposition was also with us. On various issues, they have been with us. But let me tell you that culture persisting in parliament, say about 2 decades, has changed. And I remember that sometime even whole session used to be washed out. And that's really very painful. So this mindset must go, this culture of disruption must go. If anybody has any grievance or disagreement with opposition or any other, with any member of parliament, maybe with the minister, better he can be exposed through debates. Sometimes I am surprised that instead of going for debate, they resort to boycott it. So, for instance, that if A has some grievance, A alleges B, and just making allegation, they start boycotting, disrupting, and going into total deadlock. If A has allegation, B can be better targeted by debates. What are his conducts? Where has he faulted? Why this culture has not is not there in the parliament? That is surprising.
Sure.
Many times it happened that instead of discussing the issue breadth and length and analyze the whole matter, or the person conducts just simply boycotting.
Okay, I'm going to
Then
take
of
that point
course-
that you're making forward to the Congress MP now. You know, Mr. Bhattacharya, what mood is the opposition going to be in for the winter session of Parliament? Are you going to disrupt, or are you going to debate and discuss?
Look, I can put it this way. First of all, it's a very short session. Practically, it was in the mind of the people that this government does not want any session at this moment. Possibly they were waiting for the election results. But the parliament is something different. Any political party may win, or any political party may be defeated. That is a different subject. Parliament, where we had opposition party to raise the issue, the government to say what is their functioning, what they want to say. When the opposition party opposed one thing, this is wrong. This decision should not be accepted. Suppose the GST. I recall, I have said in the House so many times that the way you are trying to bring this, though we have supported it because the Congress wanted this thing, but the process what you adopted, it is totally wrong. Nobody bothered for it because they thought that they have the highest number in Lok Sabha. So whatever they want to do, they did it. Now this association, I am sure of it, when we will raise the issue, price rise, terrific price rise, I am sure that they will not give any reply. When we will say that why you are connecting Aadhaar with the telephone lines, mobile for telephone, etc., they will not put any reply, or whatever reply they will give us, that will not be accepted by the people. You see, I have seen so many older people, aged people, they are crying, they are saying that the way the government is reducing the rate of interest, it is very difficult for the older people, for the aged people to maintain their own family.
I think we've got an idea
society,
now. I think we've got an idea now
at
as to
least
what
in
the
my
issues the
state, in
Congress might
Bengal.
want to raise in this winter session of Parliament. I'm going to take those issues to the journalists now and discuss them. Are these going to be the issues that are going to top the Congress's agenda when it comes to the winter session of Parliament? He said, you know, the BJP has taken unilateral decisions in the past, and that's something that they are averse to. He's spoken about price rise, and then, of course, linking of Aadhaar with the phones and other aspects of it. So do you believe that these are going to be issues that are going to top
these
the
are
agenda?
going to be the issues, but they are complicated issues, in the sense the Aadhaar issue is being argued before the Supreme Court. So the government might say that it is sub judice, so at the moment we would not want to discuss. Price rise, they might be open to discussion, but price rise, unless the opposition is able to nail the government on specific issues, it will be an empty debate. But even a vacuous debate is better than no debate at all. But what I feel is, what both the government and the opposition should not do is, there has been a very bitter campaign in the Gujarat Assembly polls. So that bitterness should not spill over into the winter session of Parliament.
We saw the handshakes between the former Prime Minister and the present
Yes,
Prime Minister.
very
So
much.
it seems
But,
like that issue is on the back burner.
But
government to say their own voice only.
Okay.
but they do have to, that is where it becomes very essential for them to come together and recognize, okay, you will discuss these issues, we want to push these bills, so let us come to a compromise. Unfortunately, over the years, for the last 20 years and more, whenever a party is in opposition, it says, we are going to boycott, we are going to demand the most impossible things which the government will never agree to. And the government would say, look, the opposition is being unreasonable, we can't do anything. And so it comes to a deadlock. Now, how do you get out of this deadlock? That is something which both sides have to work.
Do you think the Gujarat elections and the Himachal Pradesh election results, which will be announced on Monday, will have any bearing on the winter session of Parliament?
Yeah, it will have a bearing on the mood. The BJP would feel a little more triumphant if they succeed. The opposition would literally crow about it if they score in any of these two states, and that will sort of color the debate on the other issues.
Sure.
I know it is humanly impossible for them, asking them not to be carried away by the assembly elections, the verdicts and all that, and focus on the business of the house. So, but what we need is that they need to really address what can be addressed. You know, the economic situation needs to be addressed. Price rise is one of them, because the overall economy is in a not a very good shape, and there is need for a lot of good criticism from the opposition.
I think Mr. Raj can respond to that right now. You know, Mr. Raj, is the BJP or is the government willing to discuss some of these issues that you just brought up? Are you willing to put it on the table, have a short duration discussion, or maybe some other discussion as well, to try and highlight what the problem is and to see what the government is doing really?
Our government always gives space to opposition. Whenever the opposition on any issue demands a debate, then under Rule 193 it is allowed, and many times it has been allowed, whether it's a drought or any other issue. So whatever the issues, whether the ruling party has or opposition has, they meet and decide in business committee meeting. There is a business committee meeting where not only the ruling party but even opposition representative also sit together, then decide that which subjects will be taken up in coming days. But let me tell you, there are so many issues which are left out, they are not debated, and the time is not there, and out of 545 member of parliament, many are so disappointed, frustrated, because they don't get the time to raise the questions regarding their parliament problems. Otherwise also, national, international debate, there's really scarcity of time in the house. And of course, days are smaller this time compared to the earlier year. And as per usages and customs and practices, at least 120 days parliament should function in year. But over the year, the number of functioning of the parliament is getting decreased and decreased.
Sure.
And the country is huge, problems are huge. So it needs more and more days. And it's not that this is happening in our time. This has been coming from previous years, previous sessions, that day by day the days of functioning of the parliament is getting reduced. And we all know that which are the issues going to come up. And of course, some of the issues will be mutually agreed upon, that they will be taken for the debate.
Right. Yes. So you're suggesting that there is limited time even as far as this winter session of parliament is concerned. Right. So not much discussion, or there is not much scope for discussion and debate is what you're suggesting because of the limited time frame. Let me now go across to Mr. Bhattacharya and ask him about
I'll say only one. I'll say.
Yes.
I'll say one. I'll say one thing. My request to opposition is that number of days are not very large, or There are limited days, so they should play a creative role and let the things be debated so that as many as bills we need to pass can be done.
Okay.
So that is in the
So
interest of
as
the
far
country.
as bills are concerned, Mr. Raj, what tops the agenda for you as far as legislative business is concerned?
See, I see triple talaq is likely to come, and then other important issues are also there, and it'll be disclosed to us or will be known to us once that the business committee meets and decides that which bills will be taken, will be given the priority.
Sure. Mr. Bhattacharya, what tops the agenda as far as the opposition or the Congress is concerned in Parliament, and are you willing to cooperate with the government if it brings up the triple talaq bill?
I can place it, I can put it this way, or I can place it this way, that the opposition party always want some positive action from the government. When the opposition party says something, what would be the responsibility of the government to give the proper reply to that? Unfortunately, government is trying to avoid the question raised by the opposition party. As a result, opposition party, they started shouting. I'm sure of it, that this winter session, very short period winter session, what bill they will bring, what they will do. The finance minister is saying that the rate of interest should be reduced. If they are going to bring this type of bill, then you can understand opposition party, how they will react to that. And I am sure they will not give the proper reply. Another thing, almost in every day, in different states,
How can you say
workers,
beforehand
those
that
who
they
are
would
coming
not
from
give
the
reply?
different
One at a time,
they are being
please.
killed. Suppose just a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
In Malda of West Bengal, a worker came to Rajasthan. He was brutally murdered. What action has been taken by the government of Rajasthan? You tell me.
The matter is being
So
looked
all
into.
these things are coming.
It is for the officials, of
There
course, to
is
deal with that matter, Mr. Bhattacharya, and in due course of time, we'll know exactly what happens in that case as well. But a quick closing comment now from Parsa Venkateshwar Rao Jr. 14 sittings. Can we expect some work to be done, some middle path really that the opposition and the government take in this winter session of Parliament and work out their differences maybe?
I think they promise to take a middle path, but I'm not sure whether they will actually implement it, because the tempers are rising on both sides. The government is impatient. It believes that the opposition is being obstructive and it is not allowing the government to carry forward with its legislative business. And as we have heard, the opposition believes that the government is opaque, it refuses to answer questions, it refuses to be accommodative. So their attitudes are more or less made up. They are not rigid, but they are coming to that rigidity. So what is the way out? Can the presiding officer do something, bring them together? Mr. Vaikaiya Naidu, the chairman of the House, has got a very unenviable task. Though he is friends with the members across all the parties and on both sides of the House, he should be able to forge a compromise. But I think he would also want to take a very firm stand in terms of the functioning of the House.
Sure.
So that will create a tense situation.
Okay, all right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. I'd like to thank my guests P. Bhattacharya, Udit Raj and Parsa Venkateshwar Rao Jr. for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.